We'll just start at the top. USC, their win total set at 9.5 for 10. Lincoln Riley, of course, the second-year coach. Successful year last year, 11-3. Number 15 in the country by most power, or by the power rankings I look at, and roughly around there by most power rankings. Caleb Williams, obviously the big name back there, won the Heisman a year ago.
Yeah.
They also brought in some a running back, Marshawn Lloyd, who we're familiar with from South Carolina, and a receiver, Dorian Singer from Arizona.
Yeah.
The receivers aren't a problem. We also know about the freshman Zachariah Branch, and there's other guys that are still there, Mario Williams. We won't talk about that as much because that's a known commodity. The offensive line, they lost at least one really good player, but they brought in a bunch of transfers. Last year, the problem was the defense more than any of that, even than the offensive line, which was pretty good last year. It was the defense. Ashton, is their defense going to be solid this year? Like, can we get solid?
If you get solid, I mean, this team probably wins the national championship or is close, like they're a playoff contender at least. You mentioned the offense. That's great. And the defense is the problem. They retain Alex Grinch. You mentioned that as well. We don't like Alex Grinch. We haven't for a long time. Yeah. But that's some reason he's still there. And I don't know. Does it make sense to me? Absolutely not. But yeah, Lincoln Riley trusts him, I guess. It's USC. For me, they feel like it's about the same as his Oklahoma teams. You had a fantastic quarterback. You have some elite receivers to throw to. It's not the points is not the problem on offense. Is you can't stop anyone. Like you just can't stop anyone. And yeah, eventually you're going to have a game where your offense has a turnover or some penalties or something, get a little behind the ball, and yeah, you lose like that. Those are the games that they lose. So the number is very nice though. Like we do have to consider the number here. If you can get it at 9.5, I mean that's tasty. It really is. They have. Utah goes to USC. I think USC loses on the road at Oregon. I just don't think they win that football game. I don't think it's a good matchup for USC. But I think they can beat Utah at their place. They have a possibility of doing that. But like that, say you lose both of those games, I mean, so what? Like you're still going to hit the over. So yeah, I like those are the two games where I think maybe they could go down. Notre Dame as well. They go to Notre Dame. That one could get tricky just kind of depending on how Hartman and the offense works out.
Yeah,
USC is going to be favored in a lot of these games. So, like, I would pick the over.
I think they can be the same team as last year, have a pretty bad defense, and still go 10-2 at least. And I like what they did in the portal on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Bear Alexander, Anthony Lucas, Jack Sullivan, Mason Cobb, Christian Roland Wallace, like all three levels of the defense, bringing in talent. They have one of the best safeties in the country in Kalen Bullock. There is no excuse for Alex Grinch to not have at least a solid defense this year. And I think if they get a solid defense, they win the Pac-12 or at least compete in the championship game again and possibly make the playoff. So I'll also go over 9.5, still out there. Feels like that's a solid lean for me.
Yeah, agreed. Do you have them winning? Do you have them winning the conference, the Big 12?
I think I would pick them to win the Pac-12. I wouldn't pick them against the field. Like if I had to,
yes.
Basically, if I just have to pick one team, I think I'd probably pick USC. But I think it's less likely that they win it than that somebody else wins it. I just don't know who somebody else is.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a muddle out there. Like we mentioned, those top 6 teams, and there's not much separation just because of the quarterback play, the offensive minds that are out there. Like there's a lot of games that can be coin flip games. USC UCLA is tricky. Like that's a tough game. I think UCLA could be by the end of the year. Say Dante Moore steps in for UCLA. That's a tricky game for USC at the end of the year. So yeah, some of these I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a really really interesting slate. Yeah, just top to bottom.
Agree.